Okay, so what we're looking at here is a neck surgery jig, basically, and the reason this is designed, for anyone that's ever worked on guitars, they know that this type of breakage is unfortunately very common. The reason it's so common is, you know, with this type of neck, the neck itself is actually tilted back, usually somewhere between 11 and 17 degrees. That's why this elliptical, the side of the jig, the elliptical portion, this is a very deep sweep and this is a shallower sweep. So depending on the tilt of the headstock, you can turn this thing 180 and do a headstock with a shallower pitch or a steeper pitch. Now this Gibson SG had a really bad break, and I'm just basically getting ready to take it out of the jig. But you can orient the guitar in the jig, sliding the jig along the top platform of the neck assembly, or the TechDecks upper neck platform, to sort of situate and orient the guitar so that you can sweep down into the deepest part or the worst part of the cut, worst part of the break, mind you, and insert these splines, which actually make the neck much stronger than the day it was made. So I'm just kind of taking this out of the jig right now. I'm going to just pull these clamps off. That second spline is set now. And these fasteners actually move up and down, and the cinch pins can be adjusted as well on both ends. I use a machinist rule to kind of center the neck in the jig. In this case, it's 3.9 centimeters, 3.9 centimeters, both sides, and then I take a second measurement up here just to make sure that it's centered. Now, when I do make the cut, I have a router sled that I've had CNC'd for a Bosch Colt router. So I make one cut. The sled basically indexes into the elliptical jig, or the elliptical neck surgery jig, like so, and that gives you a sort of a positive hold for when you make that cut. When I make the one cut, I leave the guitar in the jig and then just turn it 180, and then I make the other cut. So what this does is it gives us a cut that is midway between the outside of the truss rod and the outside of the neck, so that the outside of that spline has enough meat on there to really support the inserted spline on both sides. So like I said, because you've sort of confused the grain, this is much stronger. It ends up being a three-piece neck now instead of one piece, which, as you know, is much stronger than one piece of wood. So there really is no sort of break grain memory to follow, because the grain has been confused now with the introduction of these two new mahogany strips. And generally, if it's a maple neck, you'd use maple splines. In this case, it's mahogany. We've used mahogany splines. So I'm going to just take this apart, take it out of the jig now that it's been done, and I'll just show you how the actual jig itself is slidingly received onto the top platform of the neck surgery. Oh, sorry, the wrong. There we go. So those little rubber tips come in, and they basically cinch the neck and hold it firmly into place while you're doing your cuts. See, you get a nice clean, two very clean cuts on either side of that truss rod, like I said earlier. I just loosen this one off as well. Okay. Okay, now what I want to show you is how, like, for those of you that have a TechDeck, this whole jig is slidingly received. There's a mating male rail that's slidingly received onto the female rail on the top of the neck, the double neck platform. So that is sort of spring-loaded. This basically lines up like so and slides into place like so, and it allows you to sort of orient the guitar into the jig so that you can get at the worst part of the break and make those two sweeping cuts for your splines. So I'll just remove that again. and that's kind of what you end up with. Very quick to set up for this very common neck break. Now these these splines, I use hide glue to glue them in for multiple reasons, because it's just a great adhesive, and the only adhesive that's really stood the test of time. There's furniture from ancient Egypt that's still together with hide glue. It also just sort of peels off the lacquer. It doesn't really stick to the finish. Now in this case it's not super critical, because we're going to be sanding this out and then restaining this and shading it, and you'll see that in the rest of the video once we sort of sand it out and shape it. And when we're done, this will be much stronger than the day it left the factory. Okay, here we go. Here's the Gibson SG that had the broken headstock, and here's the masterful shading job that our finisher Darcy Thompson did, and he managed to shade that in beautifully. No need to spray paint it black. It's okay to see a hint of the repair, that's fine. At a glance, no one would ever see that. Obviously, if it was a black guitar or a solid white guitar, it would be completely 100% invisible. But I never saw the sense in actually trying to, you know, paint a black splotch over a repair. That always kind of seemed garish to me. You know, I would rather see a hint of the repair. You know, I've seen lots of you know, old cellos and violins where you see all kinds of repairs, and they don't paint it black to try and hide it. You just shade it as beautifully as you can, and this was done masterfully. One more Gibson headstock, slice, splice, refinished, and case closed. Thanks, Darcy.